Now, for more on the story, we're joined by CCC spokesperson Promise Mkhwananzi, who gives us an update. Promise, thanks for making time to speak to us this morning. From what we understand, there are by-elections that are currently taking place in Zimbabwe today, but many of your candidates will be missing from that poll.
Absolutely. The candidates for the House of Assembly, which is the parliament, have been unlawfully removed from the ballot paper. But our local authority candidates remain on the ballot paper, which is in itself conspicuous and exposes Mr. Mnangagwa's intentions, which is to gain a two-thirds majority in parliament by hook or crook in order to eliminate the limit on the term of the presidency to gain life presidency.
Well, there are two issues for us to look at, Promise, I think, that come out from what's transpiring. One is obviously the allegations that you're making that President Emmerson Mnangagwa is doing whatever he can, by hook or crook, as you say, to have a two-thirds majority. And the other is that you are falling, or your party is falling at the wayside. The numbers that you got in that election earlier this year are diminishing.
That is not true. We got the highest numbers in this election since the formation of the opposition in Zimbabwe. We had the highest number of MPs were able to break ZANU-PF's two-thirds majority. Even in terms of our entitlement to the political finances in terms of percentages, we had attained the highest percentage in the history of the movement. So on the contrary, the party has continued to grow. We have also been able to access some areas that we were not able to access in the past, including winning 33 out of the 34 local authorities around the country, which was a first in itself. So really, part of Mnangagwa's bitterness and vindictiveness is born out of the fact that the opposition has gained momentum, we've gained massive support, and he knows that the people of Zimbabwe have shifted gears.
Well, Promise, much of that is undeniable, but the issue on the ground is that you are losing numbers in Parliament, and it seems that the process is somewhat legal. How are you continuing to deal with that? What is your strategy to stop this tide?
The premise is not legal. The premise is based on kangaroo outcomes of the courts. They are not the real outcomes of the court. You know that our judiciary has been captured, as we stated yesterday in our press conference, and is being used to achieve an end that is absolutely unconstitutional. We are doing everything permissible and possible within the confines of our laws and our constitution to stop this lawlessness. But again, there will come a time when we are going to say we are now taking this matter to the public opinion. But at least we would have demonstrated our determination to work within the laws of our country to resolve the issues at hand amicably. But we soon realize that we are dealing with somebody who is not interested in resolving the impasse in Zimbabwe, whose sole focus is to ensure the abdication of the term limit and the achievement of a lifetime presidency. But we are going to work together with stakeholders, including progressive forces within the ruling party and other areas, to ensure that we stop Mr. Mnangagwa from achieving the abdication of the term limit.
So when do you start working with these other individuals that you speak of? Because whilst you're in the process, you are losing members of parliament.
The good thing is that we are actually gaining support of the people across the country. While we've been focused on the parliamentary process, we've been focused on mobilizing and convincing people across the political divide, beyond the CCC and other political parties, other civic society leaders, including progressive components, even within the ruling party, who are vehemently opposed to the dynasty that Mr. Mnangagwa seeks to create. So I think that we have created a solid base to challenge and to confront and to stop this undemocratic objective.
Well, I find that quite interesting, because one would imagine that in order to stop this move, you've got to have numbers in Parliament. You don't have those numbers, and those numbers are diminishing. You suggest that you have numbers on the outside. So what use are these numbers on the outside of Parliament, and how are you garnering that support? How will that support assist you in stopping this move by President Mnangagwa, as you suggest?
That's why I said that we were going to be courting even progressive elements within the ruling party so that parliament remains an effective site of struggle. If the vote to remove the term limit is put to a secret ballot, Mr. Mnangagwa will be in for a surprise. But more importantly, I think that if you look at the history of the struggles to stop presidents who attempted to remove term limits, the generality of the citizens are very important in that struggle. The numbers, not just in parliament, but also in the country, will be very important in ensuring that we stop this thing. In South Africa, for example, the South Africans stood very firm when President Mbeki wanted to remove the two-thirds, the two terms limit. So it will be here in Zimbabwe. The people are always and will always remain at the center. Those that go to parliament, they go on the basis or on the auspices of representing the people. And we expect the parliamentarians, if this matter is put to a secret ballot, to stop Mr. Mnangagwa from removing the term limit.
Now, the CCC has reported a campaign of intimidation, including abductions of its members. Can you provide more details on these incidents, and how is the party ensuring the safety of its members amid rising political tensions?
Well, there has been numerous acts of terror in the country. I cannot state them in the limited time that we have, except to point out the murder of Bishop Tafumane Masaya in Mavuku constituency, who was the campaign manager for our candidate, who has since been blocked from campaigning. If ZANU-PF was confident that they were going to win these elections, they were going to let our candidates on the ballot and let the people decide. But they know for sure that they would not win any election, and therefore they have done what they have done. And they continue to shred our constitution into pieces. They continue to harass the people, to intimidate people across the country. Bishop Machaya's case is just but one of the thousands of cases that we have gathered across the country. Some of the perpetrators have been caught on camera. They remain unarrested. No arrest has been effected. They remain scot-free. They continue to harangu and harass the people of Zimbabwe.
Now, the leadership of the CCC has consistently referred to Sengezo Chabangu as an impostor. An impostor who's obviously a thorn in your flesh at the moment. How does the party justify this claim, and what evidence does it have to question his legitimacy as the interim Secretary General? And I ask this question because the courts and the August House are all ruling in his favor.
There is no legitimacy to question Mr. Chabangu. He's not a member of our party, let alone our Secretary General. He is a willing pawn that is willing to be used by the ruling ZANU-PF party. Never mind the court outcomes. I've already stated that the court is on a kangaroo mood at the moment, and the judgments are pliant to the wishes and whims of Mr. Mnangagwa, which is to achieve a lifetime presidency.
So let's talk strategically. How are you going to stop Sengezo Chabangu, and how are you going to stop this move that you say is illegitimate? Because it seems that train has gathered momentum and isn't stopping.
It has not gathered any momentum. In fact, the people of Zimbabwe are very cross with what is happening.
How many members of parliament have you lost in the last few months that were legitimately that were elected in the last election?
Maybe 20 or so.
Exactly. Hold on. So the point is that you argue that it's not gaining momentum. You had members of parliament that were legally voted into office who have now lost their seats. Today you're faced with a by-election where many of your members are unable to participate in that poll. That is a train that is gathering momentum. That is continual loss of your members, and you seem to have no solution to dealing with it.
It's not gathering momentum. If you speak to Zimbabweans, the Zimbabweans know their legitimate leadership. They know who they voted for. And by the way, this whole thing is meant to divert the attention from pursuing the legitimacy crisis that Mr. Mnangagwa faces because of the way that the elections went, the previous elections went, in which Mr. Mnangagwa failed to win the elections in a free and fair manner. And all this is meant to try and divert the attention of the people from that primary and core question of the day. This thing will come to a stop. I may not be in a position to disclose some of the strategies that we are having and that we are discussing and that we are considering. But trust me, it will come to it will fall with a thud. because it is not supported by the foundation of the people of Zimbabwe. This is just a group of people who do not care about this country, who think that they can get away with all these lawless things that they've started to do. But I can tell you, the people of Zimbabwe are determined. The leadership of the CCC, in unison with other democratic forces, are not going to let this get away. We are going to ensure that the people do not vote in vain. We have already rejected the election. We have rejected Mr. Mnangagwa's overtures to come into some inclusive government of sorts, because we are not about trinkets. We are about the principles of service, to serve the country and to serve the people of Zimbabwe, to uplift the lives of the people of Zimbabwe, to deal with corruption, to deal with bad leadership, and to ensure that Zimbabwe becomes a credible member of the international community.
Now, if I recall, former parliamentarian who's a CCC member, Tendai Biti, stated that the government of national unity of years gone by was probably one of the best things that's happened to Zimbabwe in recent years. Now, this is one of those areas that you have discounted and said that a GNU is not anything that you are looking towards. Do you not feel that this is a sacrifice of Zimbabwean citizens? And that if you did have a government of national unity, or at least collaborated with the ruling ZANU-PF, it would allow you greater strength to protect your interests and the interests of those you serve?
Well, the Citizens' National Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body of the party, has already put a resolution to say we are ready to dialogue with the ruling ZANU-PF party, but our dialogue must be confined to ensuring that we resolve the problems that result in contested elections. So the aspect of electoral and political reforms, the aspect of economic reforms, the aspect of building institutions of accountability and good governance will be at the core of our agenda in that dialogue. We are not looking to a dialogue that is only limited to sharing of positions and power. We are looking at a dialogue that is focused on ensuring that we resolve the institutional and legal and the other frameworks that hinder Zimbabwe from conducting an election where all parties will be satisfied.
Yeah, so I promise you, I think you'd muted yourself. But allow me to ask this, and this stems from that August 23 election result. A number of election observing groups indicated that they were dissatisfied with the ways in which the election was conducted. There were instances where voting ballots were not available to voters, and voters had to wait 24 and 48 hours. So many issues that were declared to be irregular by a number of parties, including SADC, African Union, and the European Union. Do you feel a little bit let down by the absence of support beyond just documents and stating that the elections could have been better conducted? Should more be done by some of these bodies speaking towards democracy?
No, we've not been let down. On the contrary, we feel very, very grateful that these bodies were able to take a principled stance against a regime that tried to intimidate them from taking the position that they took. In particular, SADC, we saw a lot of problems. ZANU-PF officials trying to threaten the election observer mission and trying to alter the report and so on and so forth. But they stood their ground, they stood firm, and SADC stood firm. They formally adopted that report. And there are processes at SADC level which are ongoing that are meant to try and give the Zimbabwean crisis a soft landing. We really appreciate that, particularly coming from SADC, which is the primary regional body for our region, Southern Africa. And indeed, it is important for SADC to understand that a stable Zimbabwe is good for the region. A stable Zimbabwe is good for South Africa. We have already said, and we reiterate, that the problems, the economic and political problems in Zimbabwe have a direct bearing on South Africa and other countries. And South Africa has an obligation to play a positive role in ensuring that the Zimbabwean crisis is resolved. As we speak, the Zimbabwean issue is a major electoral issue in South Africa because of economic and political refugees. And South Africa will do itself a favor by helping to resolve the crisis in Zimbabwe so that there is less inflow of Zimbabweans into South Africa in search of political and economic refuge.
Triple C spokesperson Promise Mkhwananzi, thanks for your time.